What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Front Yard Fantasy Week 13 Waiver Wire Ads video. I'm Simon here with my buddy Jay, and today we are going to be giving you the names of 6 players that we think you should be adding off of the waiver wire in Week 13. Jay, I'm going to throw it over to you to go over the first name today.
Yeah, normally we only do 5, but with all the injuries and guys stepping into starting roles, there's a lot of potential league winners on the waiver wire. And the first one, who I think is the best out of all of them, is Alexander Mattison. Dalvin Cook went down with a shoulder injury. It was reported today that he has a potential torn labrum. There hasn't been an official report yet, so we don't know exactly how much time he's going to miss. But what it's looking like right now is he's going to miss at least a few games, potentially the rest of the regular season. Alexander Mattison has shown when he's given the touches, he's able to perform pretty close to what Dalvin Cook has done. The 2 games just this season that he started, he's averaged 24.7 points per game, over 20 touches in both of those games, over 100 yards in both those games. This is the type of guy that, even if it wasn't towards the end of the season, you blow that number one waiver priority. You blow every single bit of fab, whether you have Dalvin Cook, whether you don't have Dalvin Cook. Alexander Mattison, the term that I said earlier, which I think is thrown around too much, is a league winner. Alexander Mattison, if given the touches, is a league winner.
Yeah, and Jay, before this season started, I may have disagreed with you a little bit. Last year, we had a similar thing happen. It was only for 1 game, but Dalvin Cook goes down injured. Alexander Mattison goes to step in, and everyone's expecting him to automatically be that RB1 that Cook was. And he wasn't. He got 10 carries for 26 yards against Atlanta in 1 game without Cook in 2020. And so going into this season, I had kind of downgraded Mattison a little bit as far as backup running backs go. But like you said, this year, when given the opportunity, he has shown. I don't know if he's developed further as a player or if this offensive scheme this year is more fitting for him plugging in whenever Dalvin Cook is out. But he's the guy there if Dalvin Cook is missing time. I am 100% on board with Alexander Mattison as probably the top pickup this week. But there is another really good running back that I'm going to talk about next that's in a backup role with the starter about to miss some time that I think has a similar level of upside to Alexander Mattison, and that is Jamaal Williams of the Detroit Lions. So first, just on DeAndre Swift, whenever he first got injured, there was optimism that he wouldn't miss any time, that he'd be able to come back. But just recently, the Lions head coach Dan Campbell did say that DeAndre Swift is still pretty sore, and I quote, "It's hard to say that you'd see him playing," when talking about this coming week. So it looks like DeAndre Swift is going to miss at least 1 game. In this previous game against the Chicago Bears, after Swift left the game, Jamaal Williams had 15 attempts for 65 yards and 5 receptions on 5 targets. They immediately just slotted him into that lead back role. It wasn't a split backfield. It wasn't him getting less carries. They just gave the same work that they would give to DeAndre Swift to Jamaal Williams. And people forget, with the Green Bay Packers the last 2 seasons, even with backs ahead of them, Jamaal Williams has been an RB3 when given limited opportunities. He's a good back. And if given the full workload in Detroit, even if for 1 week, I expect him to return pretty good value.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you said. And to your point, he's performed. He's been at least flex viable, even when there has been guys in front of him. So if he's getting the touches, even in this abysmal offense, I definitely think whether it's 1 week, whether it's a couple weeks, he's somebody that can return solid running back to value, and somebody who definitely should be picked up on all leagues.
Yeah, completely agree. Jay, who is our next guy that we're going to be talking about?
So the next guy is somebody who is back in a starting role, likely with the news today that broke that Christian McCaffrey is going to miss the rest of the season. Chuba Hubbard, and while I do think he should be picked up in all leagues, I think you need to temper expectations. He does have a few things working against him that wasn't the case earlier in the season. First off, they signed Ameer Abdullah at week 7, and he's had a role even with Christian McCaffrey on the field. Just this past week when Christian McCaffrey went down, Ameer Abdullah played more than double the snaps of Chuba. He out-targeted him 6-1, and he's likely to have the passing down role, which in this offense is going to be the most valuable role because not only is Chuba added to the team, but Cam Newton is back. So Cam Newton's going to steal the red zone work, going to steal some touchdowns. So there's another chink in the armor for Chuba Hubbard. And it's an extremely tough schedule coming up. They're on bye this week, but the Week 14 matchup against the Falcons is a good matchup. But the fantasy playoffs faces Buffalo, Tampa Bay, and New Orleans, 3 extremely good rush defenses. So while I do think Chuba should be picked up, he's not the slam dunk that everybody thinks he is, because he did perform very well earlier in the season when he was given the opportunity. But this isn't his backfield to himself anymore. It's going to be Cam Newton involved, Amir Abdullah involved. While at this point in the season, if you need a running back, I would not be shocked to throw all of your fab on him, whatever you have left, but just temper your expectations.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Jay. I like Chuba Hubbard, but I do not love him as an ad this week. There's a lot of uncertainty, and the matchups that you brought up is a big reason why. In the best case scenario, he's given all of the work here over Amir Abdullah, and he's still got the worst playoff schedule for a running back. I think of maybe any team. The Panthers have got to be one of the worst playoff schedules for running backs this year.
Is the worst.
I wouldn't be shocked if it was. I 100% believe that. And then the uncertainty with Amir Abdullah just completely throws a wrench in that. I think both guys are worth picking up. If I had to put my money on one of them, I think Chuba is going to be the guy that gets more carries, but this is a game of probabilities we're playing, and there's a very real and non-zero chance that Amir Abdullah is the one who gets more carries in this offense. That doesn't mean don't pick up Chuba Hubbard. Running back is a position of need and one with a lot of scarcity. So when there's a guy that may have a chance at a starting role, you take it, but lower your expectations a bit based on what we saw earlier this season from Chuba. We are going to get away from the running back position now, Jay, though, and we are going to go into a player that has been very exciting for a couple of weeks now, and that is wide receiver for the New England Patriots, Kendrick Bourne. He's coming off of a 2-touchdown game in which he scored 23.1 PPR fantasy points. Seems like a must-add, right? Like an absolutely must-add slam dunk start. I'm not quite that far, but I do think that Kendrick Bourne is worth an ad right now. We saw what he's capable of. We saw his upside this week. But what I wanted to point out is why I believe there are still questions around him in this Patriots offense. In 4 of his last 6 games, he's seen 4 targets. This past week, he saw 6, and in week 8, he saw 7. But that volume that he's getting is not nearly enough to consider him a safe play or someone that's going to give you consistent production. What that means is if he scores a touchdown, you're more than likely going to be happy. And if he doesn't score a touchdown, you're more than likely not going to be happy. But in this Patriots offense, if I have to pick a wide receiver that's most likely to score a touchdown at this point, it's Kendrick Bourne. And that upside that he showed us this week means he's worth a flex play each and every week at this point. Just don't think he's a slam dunk start week in, week out. He's not getting the volume necessary to have that kind of consistent production.
No, and I think he said it perfectly. Out of the wide receivers on this team, he's who I want, even though he's not necessarily getting the target volume you would like. He is getting looks in the red zone, and that's where he can make up that difference. Hunter Henry has been a real red zone target for Mac Jones this year, but he's been banged up. So I'm with you. I think he's a solid pickup, somebody throw on your bench. There are still bye weeks the next 2 weeks, believe it or not, and you might need a wide receiver. So a solid flex play, a bye week replacement. He's somebody who should be on all rosters.
And a high upside flex play. This is a guy that can go off for 2 touchdowns on relatively low volume. Not everyone can do that.
Absolutely. Next guy is going to be somebody who has only been fantasy relevant for the past 2 weeks, but with his opportunity, he's done pretty well. Over the past 2 games, Dontrell Hilliard has averaged 17 points per game, and the thing that I really like is he's done it in different ways in those 2 games. The first game that he was active was week 11. He had 10 targets, 8 catches, and 47 yards. Last week, he had 131 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. So he's being used in multiple different ways. While I do think this is pretty much a timeshare with Donta Foreman, I do like that he's seen that passing volume. Even though he didn't this past week, I think that's going to continue, especially with the lack of weapons, with Julio Jones hurt, with Derrick Henry obviously gone, now with A.J. Brown on the IR. Granted, he does have a bye week, which you have to take into consideration. So he's somebody who you are going to miss a week compared to the Chuba Hubbards, but I think his involvement is more solidified.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And just a PSA, if D'Onta Foreman is still on your waiver wire for some reason, he is worth adding as well. But if I have to pick one of those 2 backs, it's Dontrell Hilliard. These guys look like they're going to be splitting touches on the ground. And like you said, if one of them's going to see the passing volume, and that's not a guarantee, but if one of them's going to see the targets, it's most likely Hilliard. Hilliard seems like the guy that they trust in that role, that they're slotting into that what we expected Jeremy McNichols to be whenever Derrick Henry went down. I think Dontrell Hilliard is a great add at the running back position right now. Excuse me. Our next player, guys, is going to be another running back. I know we talked about a lot of running backs today, but it is a position of need across fantasy right now, and the injuries just keep on piling up. This is a running back for the Buffalo Bills, Matt Brieda. Similar to Kendrick Bourne, like I mentioned previously, this is another player that probably isn't going to provide consistent fantasy production for you. He's just not seeing the volume or the snaps necessary to make that happen. His snap share is less than half that of Devin Singletary's in this offense, but over the past 2 weeks, I know Zach Moss has been injured, but with Zach Moss getting banged up, we are seeing Matt Breida's snap share go up, and he's doing a lot with it. He is a highly explosive player on this Bills offense, and this Bills offense is supposed to be one of the best in the NFL. If you get a guy that has explosive play-breaking ability, the chance to score a touchdown any given time he touches the ball, especially at the running back position, that's someone that you should be fine plugging into your flex slot. I'm not saying that he's going to come out and perform every single week, but this is another one of those high upside running backs that I think you can play no problem.
Yeah, and I think Zach Moss was actually a healthy scratch this week. I know he has been dealing with injury, but just using the eye test, you look at Matt Brieda, he has been the most explosive. He's been the best looking running back this entire year, even though they've only used him the past couple of weeks. I'm with you. I think if they were to give him, I think his role is going to grow as the season moves along because this offense has looked better with him in it.
Yeah.
He's not somebody you can trust by any means, but you can never have too much running back depth. He's somebody that is definitely a stash and in the right matchup, somebody, as long as, Zach Moss is inactive or, depending on what they do with Devin Singletary as well. If he's getting those touches, he's somebody who you could potentially have as a flex play.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jay. I was mostly saying that in his current state, he's still flex worthy, but you bring up the really great point that he has looked the best on this field. And there's a very real chance that down the stretch, his role in this offense starts growing. And then that upside that we're talking about just keeps on growing for him. Guys, that is going to be it for our waiver wire video for week 13. Those are the 6 players that we think you should be adding to help you win this season. It is the home stretch, guys, so all of these ads count. A reminder also for everyone, this is just general waiver wire advice. If there are backup running backs on your waiver wire for some reason, add them now. Don't wait for the injury. If Tony Pollard for some reason is sitting out there, add him now. Heck, even Dearness Johnson is a back that has shown if given the role, he can succeed. These are the kind of plays that if you make them a week early instead of a week late, you guarantee they're on your roster and they can help you win championships. So go out there and get those ads done, win a couple titles, and we will see you guys next week for some more waiver wire ads. Until then, adios, everyone.